Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman. This is going to be an amazing episode. Guys, as you know, 2023 is coming to a close. Christmas is Monday. So we need to start getting ready for 2024. And if you want to get vertical momentum going into 2024, this is the episode you need to listen to. You need to get your pen and paper out, start writing stuff down, because the young lady I'm going to have is going to be dropping knowledge bombs. She's a best-selling author, one of my favorite TEDx speakers ever, CEO of the company. She is the Swiss Army knife of business. I'm so blessed to be able to have you to come on the show. Welcome to our show. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much, Richard. Oh my gosh, no pressure. Thanks so much for that cool introduction. I'm doing great. And again, just like you, we both share the service mindset. So let's serve the audience today. That's my hope for our conversation.
I love it. So my first question is, what is your definition of resiliency?
Hmm. I love that first question. So to me, it's persistence over, despite the challenges that you tend to get in the journey of reaching a certain goal, the persistency and the wit and the grit that it takes to not give up, but take every journey with a grain of salt, with as a learning experience, and keep getting up every time you get knocked down until you actually reach your goal. So don't quit until you actually reach your goal, and use all the challenges as the catalyst to your growth. That's how I would define that.
I love it. So now you're my neighbor, so you actually live in New York, but your accent is not a Brooklyn or a Queens accent. So tell us a little bit about where you come from, where'd you grow up, and how did you become the force that you are today?
Yeah, we both have the new in our where we live, New Jersey and New York. So I'm natively actually from Albania. So that was my story. We migrated here with my parents over 25 years ago, landed in New York, and it was the city of big dreams, right? I mean, very early on, I was kind of fed the American dream, meaning you can be anything you want to be here, because we do come from a small country in Europe, which is very beautiful and always developing as a country. However, obviously, the opportunities that were here were not there. So that's the reason why my parents moved here. And that's really how my journey started, with kind of just getting a bachelor's degree, get a degree, ensure you have a successful career, get married, have the white picket fence home, the dog and all of that. That's the American dream. So that's what I chased. That's kind of what I followed without even questioning it, because I was so young. So I climbed the corporate ladder for 13 years for, you must know Walgreens. You have one in every corner. I was one of the regional directors, actually, that I was overseeing some of the location stores in Jersey, New York, Long Island. That was my latest position with them. But I climbed up the ladder for 13 years with them. They were in growth mode. So I was pretty happy for that many years as my little family was growing. I did HR for them, marketing, sales. And then my latest one, like I mentioned, was a regional director. However, the dream came to, some sort of conflict, I guess, because the company was acquired by another company and the culture turned very toxic. So that's where I no longer saw future there, because for as many years as I was there, I'm a big, I like to know what I'm working towards. If I lose sense of purpose, even though the money could be good, that's not everything that's important to me. And I realized that I needed to keep growing and to feel fulfilled with the work I was doing. So I was no longer that. So that's kind of where I started looking for other opportunities, a lot of personal development. And I think this might also relate a lot to your audience, where you feel lost. You kind of have defined yourself for 13 years doing certain, working for a corporation. And I didn't know what else I could actually do. I was kind of just scared to even venture out in the big wide world and, realize what else was out there in the world that I could do, because the traditional roles were kind of carved for me. And I'm like, okay, so what do I do? Go through another 9 to 5 and go work for another company? I knew I had a lot of skills and experience. However, I wasn't sure that was really what I needed to do, because I felt internally that been there, done that. I need to kind of just grow myself in a different area, take what I know and kind of adapt and pretty much realign or reevaluate what my life needed to look like that was not defined by other people or the role models that I'd seen. So that's really the inner work that I started doing as I ventured out as an entrepreneur, trying to reevaluate what was important to me, where did I see myself in the next 5, 10 years, all these kind of questions that at the beginning they seemed like ludicrous because it's like, I don't know. I don't even know how am I going to get to the next week or whatever, right? So, and that's kind of how my journey started as an entrepreneur. Did some executive coaching, some career coaching because of my background. And then for the last 4 years, I've been positioned in helping purpose-driven entrepreneurs and corporations. I've gone back to corporations on my own terms, the ones that I aligned with their leaders and cultures and missions. And I do help them grow legacy company through branding, marketing, sales, systems, and teams. Just realizing that this is my area of strength, this is my gift, this is my expertise in over 20 years now. And leadership was one of those things that I also learned that I love when I was back in corporate leading very large teams. So, yeah, in a nutshell, that's kind of how I got here.
But don't you think, because my dad came off the boat from Italy, and he didn't speak the language, but he knew that America was the land of opportunity. And your parents came over from Albania because they must have seen a better opportunity here. So I think it gets lost a lot of times that you can make whatever you want out of yourself in this country. We have it so good here, but a lot of people that were born and live here, they don't really think of it like that. So talk about it from somebody that's actually come from another country, what the thought process of your parents were like to come here.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because one of the early experiences that I had, I was the oldest child. At 15, I had to grow up very fast. I had to be the contributor of the family. I started my first couple of jobs. I was a translator everywhere for my parents because they didn't speak the language. They had nobody that they knew when they came here. So I think that early experience grew me a lot, grew me fast forward I probably skipped my teenage years, which now I regret. But, looking back in retrospect, it served me well. And obviously I'm more responsible now, where I guess I raised my maturity over time. And, the decisions I make now, do have that perspective. I have a lot of empathy for any transition, really, not just transition to a new country, but even a transition from a career to a new career, a transition from corporate to your own business, a transition from, what else could be a transition when you're just changing your lifestyle completely, right? So I think transitions are very challenging for most people because you are moving beyond your comfort zone and there's a lot of new challenges that you think that you're not going to be able to probably overcome them in those normal days. But I think those are actually the things that pivot us the most. And also on the other side, there's always so much growth and opportunity. So that was an early lesson early on that, okay, you know what, any change, if my parents, actually that was my thought when I moved into entrepreneurship, which was very hard at the beginning, I might say. I wanted to quit every day for the first 2 years because it just you don't know what you're doing. And even though I had experience, I still had a lot of mindset stuff and blocks and fears over showing up, over speaking to people, over putting myself out there, all these things that are needed to be someone that is has that visibility to serve their clients. So that was my mindset, Rich. I said, you know what, if my parents could come here with nothing and start from experience, because I don't think we ever start from zero, because there's always like something that we're starting from, then, what is my thing? I know the language, I have experience, I know the mindset, I've gone to school here, all of that stuff. So I said, if they could do it, okay, I could do it. So it helped me in those beginning stages of very fear-driven, a very hard time, I would say, fear-driven hard time. And that's where I hired my first mentors. And it would be the best investment that I made because obviously, they held my hand and they showed me the process on how to actually make this entrepreneurial thing work while not only was I following my passion and sharing what I felt was my knowledge and expertise that I wanted to share with others, but also make this into a viable business because I had no other income. So I had to figure out how to also align the second part, and which is exactly what I do today, aligning purpose with profit, because obviously I've already been through that journey. I already now know how to do it. But yeah, from my perspective on the other side, just being, I guess, the child, I did see a lot of that. I did see a lot of lack of money as well, and I had to do a lot of inner work with that. And because money was such in scarcity many times, we had to move a lot and all of these. But again, these were all challenges that helped me grow. So in retrospect, I wouldn't change them for the world.
Well, the reason why I asked that question, because one of my brothers and mentors, his family came from Belarus, um, you know, the former Soviet Union, came to Springfield, New Jersey. His father worked as a stock boy at a liquor store, and Gary V eventually started Wine Library and grew his father's company to $60 million a year company. But his father started in Belarus and didn't even speak the language when he got here and started as a stock boy. But even then, they realized this is the greatest country in the world. You can do whatever you want to do, but you got, like Gary says, you got to hustle, you got to grind, and it's not going to come easy to you. So even if you have a purposeful business, it's not going to be profitable until you actually put in the work and you have to grind at building a successful business, right?
Yeah, I think definitely you need to be intentional in what you're doing, but I don't so much agree anymore with the grind and hustle mentality. Something that I've learned that it was more like what was inherited. Yes, hard work, hard work. You gotta show up. You gotta stay persistent. You gotta stay consistent, like just like with anything. But it doesn't necessarily have to be hard. And I think that's one thing that I've learned to kind of shift my mindset around. And even with the work I do today, if you follow a certain process, doesn't have to be hard. You just have to know exactly what are the steps to take to get to a certain result, whether it's you growing your company, whether it's you improving your health, whether it's you obviously, improving your finances, any other area of your life. I've learned now with all the experience and all the work I've done with many people that any result we want, there's a process behind how to get there. So as long as you understand those steps and the process to go through, then of course you will have that result. But of course, people need support, with implementing the process and the discipline and the consistency that it takes. That I agree with you. It takes discipline, it takes consistency, it takes, it takes really understanding the bigger reason why you're doing what you're doing, which is why I speak about purpose a lot, because anything that's worth building, it's going to change you. It's going to transform you along the way. There's no such thing as you just waking up, you have that idea or the problem that you want to solve in the world, and you're not going to overcome challenges. That just does not exist with anything we do, not just with business growth, but with anything. So I do believe in habits, consistency, repetition, all these things, absolutely. But I don't think it necessarily has to be hard. Just get someone that understands the process and they can teach you that, and then you can get the same result.
I love it, but I want to thank our sponsors real quick. Guys, I'm only a ninth grade dropout, but I've read over 6,000 books. I have 18 books going right now and 2 Audible books. And the gentleman down below, his name is J.F. Holmes. He writes some amazing books. So if you like military books and if you like science fiction books, definitely check out J.F. Holmes. And he's all over Amazon. Amazing books. So if you love to read, check him out. But so let me ask you a question, because I love when you talk about processes. And I think in the military, we learn how to read a standard operation procedure. We learn how to read an operations order, a business plan. But I see a lot of people, they get out of the military or whatever, first responders, they retire. They want to start a business, but they don't even write a business plan. And like somebody had told me, my friend Stephen Kuhn, he works with some of the biggest companies in the world. He says, if you don't have a business plan, you have a hobby, you don't have a business. So talk about how do you start building your processes right even before you even start your company.
Yeah, I love that question because that was me a couple of years ago. So I know exactly where someone could be when they have an idea, they have experience, just like I was. They knew that what they know is valuable, and now they want to share it with others, and they want to solve a certain problem that maybe they solve for themselves, or they just have an idea around a problem that is not being fixed yet, or it's not being solved yet in the whole wide world, right? It could be really a few ways that you do it, right? So I would start with that. Now I'm going to challenge the idea of a business plan again, because for me, business plan really equates understanding the process to how to grow your business. I don't think necessarily a business plan at the beginning serves people at the highest level, because you are also learning and growing. I think the most important piece is that you, as the founder, the solopreneur, whatever you would like to call yourself at the beginning of the business, understand the gaps between how to do all the different pieces in the process of how to grow your business, which is your branding, your marketing, your sales, your systems, and your team. This is really the foundational process to have those right foundations in order so that you can grow the company as big as you'd like to. Call it a business plan or call it a business map. I like calling it a business map because a map indicates that there's certain steps that you follow to get to that certain result, which is consistent cash flow and income for most beginners. That's usually the main problem everyone at the beginning has in their business, unless they have the foundation in place. And then the next problem becomes scalability. Once you have the consistent cash flow clients and you have implemented all the different pillars, then you want to know how to scale. It's usually those two problems. So obviously, if you're at the very beginning, you're going to have this main problem, which is inconsistent sales, right? You have already figured out the problem you want to solve, your business model, whatever that is, whether it's a service, whether it's a product, right? So that's where we start. And then the rest of the pieces are about understanding, who am I serving with this? What are the results that I'm providing with this? What is the main problem I'm solving with this, right? That's the beginning phase. So once you have that figured out, I guess we can call it a business map, like I said, a business plan. Then we got to go to the next phases of how do we reach the people we want to help. And of course, now there's so many new channels that we can do that, right? Not just locally, but also virtually. And the next process becomes about how do I build know, like, and trust with these people, right? Because again, they could be out there, great. You know exactly who you want to help and the problem that you solve for them and the result you're able to provide, but you do have to be intentional about the know, like, and trust factor, which is really more in the branding and the marketing. And then the other piece is about building your authority, articulating, how who you are and how you bring and you add value to the table. And then the other pieces are about being top of mind, with the people that you want to serve, right? Which is the marketing. How do you share good resources? How do you educate? How do you inspire them? How do you stay top of mind? So then when you go through the sales process, some trust and reciprocity is already built, and the conversation is a very natural conversation around, here's the problem I have. I am the solution to the problem that you have, and that's how we close that sale. So that would be the sales cycle. The other two pillars are really when you scale. Then you're going to need to learn how to create some systems around you, because like you mentioned, in the military, there's SOPs, right? I mean, if you want to just be by yourself as a solopreneur, probably the only systems you'll need is probably some emails, automations, contact lists, all of these like basic systems. But of course, when you want to grow your company beyond yourself, because you can't manage the capacity anymore, that would be the next good problem you have. Then you want to start implementing some system and start hiring some people that are going to be obviously supporting you with impacting more clients or finding more of your clients with the thing that you are serving them with. So in a nutshell, those are just the A to Z of just beginning business growth. If I were to put it into a course or a map, which most people need. And, once you have those pieces in place, then you could just rinse and repeat and keep growing.
Well, and I think because a lot of people before they start their company, they're always thinking about scaling. But if you don't have a great product and great systems in place, you're not going to be able to scale anything. Because my friend Brian Cuban, Mark's brother, actually introduced me to him, Herjavec, and also Damon John. And they say, we're not going to invest if your company's not scalable. Because if you're just one thing and if it's not scalable, you're not going to really get anywhere. But I think a lot of people, they think about the scalable part first, but they don't think about putting a quality product out first thing. And I think if you want to get successful in business, you need to put a quality product out there and then work your way up instead of trying to think, oh, I'm going to get so big, but yeah, you've got a crappy product. Nobody's going to buy it if it's a crappy product. I can have the best marketing, but if I have a crappy podcast, nobody's going to listen. Nobody's coming back. So talk about that, about the process of, okay, Joe Snuffy gets out of the military December 21st, 2023, wants to start a business. What's the first thing you tell him or her to start doing the day they get out?
Yeah, Richard, I love that you mentioned that. And I see this all the time, that people focus on the wrong problem they're solving at the beginning of their startup phases in their business. They're solving scalability problems. They're like, how do I scale when they haven't built the foundation? And you hit the nail right in the head. And I speak about this very often. Or usually what they will have is a business model that is, unless you have built systems, the network, all the right people around you, or the know, like, and trust, they will choose a product that they're charging very little money for. And their monthly goal is to make a certain amount. But you know how much you have to actually sell. So they're going for a low ticket price, high value business model, which is more adaptable for scaling. Then at the beginning, you go for high quality, just like you mentioned, a business model that is high quality, serves and offers a big transformation for people. Because again, you do need to build your process of the way that you're actually are providing people that transformation, and also the testimonials that are needed, right? I mean, it's just like a baby. Everybody thinks their baby is the best in town, but you need to obviously be able to test that in the market until you get validation of an idea, and you have something that the market has already validated, that you have, you can create a result for somebody. So that is where I would start, which is why I always recommend at the beginning, especially in the service space, you do have a business model. I don't care what you call it. Sometimes people get so hung over programs, courses, books, all the different ways that we package the process to get people a specific result. I don't think that matters. What matters is the articulation of the problem you solve and the result, and you have a process that you are improving over time to be able to give people bigger transformations, whether it's your service or your product. So I think that's exactly where the beginning stage focus should be. And that's what I would recommend. Who is the market? What is the problem you solve? What is the result? And also, how do we start building know, like, and trust with these people? That's where everything begins, and then you scale from there.
And I love that. Now, I think we're on like episode 1100 or something like that, and we've had some heavy hitters on. Steve Sims, David Meltzer, the guys from Rich Dad Poor Dad, and a lot of them. Every person that's been successful, they said, don't ever compete on price, because it's only a race to the bottom. But every guy and girl gets out of the military, they either want to start a t-shirt company, hat company, liquor, coffee, and they're always trying to compete on price. And if you're going to start a t-shirt company, you can't really compete with Under Armour, Black Rifle Coffee. You can't compete with them on price. So you have to compete with them on other areas. Like I'm listening to talk to a friend of mine, Dan Kennedy, and something that he said was, there's no reason to be the second lowest price, but there's something to say about to be the second highest price or the highest price in your market. So talk about, pricing and not, racing to the bottom, because then you're just a bottom feeder and you're never going to be able to make a profitable company if you're always just competing on price alone.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's always going to be another person that's doing faster, doing it faster and cheaper, right? So if you operate on that, again, you're just going to keep sinking to the bottom. And I agree with that concept that, if you're not the cheapest in town, then second cheapest doesn't really win anything. There's no trophy for that. It's not going to make your business more successful. So I would say focus more on the value and the quality of the product that you have and the transformation it gives your clients. I think that will get you to go further, faster, rather than focusing on price. And then the other thing is build community, because anything that, if you want to build a brand, and I know sometimes this word is thrown out, in different places, different perceptions around it. But if you want to build a brand that people remember you for the quality and also for the mission or the cause that you have behind why you do what you do, that is how you stand out. And you are that person that is more localized, that has that quality, and you're the one that's building know, like, and trust anyway. So people start to recognize you. So if you have these values instilled in your company, and that's why one of the things that I do with my clients at the beginning, or even when they want to scale, is realign the values of your company, because those values are going to be how you make decisions in your marketing messages, how you make decisions in, where do you invest for your marketing, also how do you reach the people that are going to buy your products or services. So it goes back to some of those basics. And again, people know you. So if you're building that brand with your face behind, what is it that you are doing, there is no competition because you're authentic. There's only one of me, there's only one of you. So we can both sell t-shirts, but the way that I talk about my t-shirt is unique to me, because there's a different reason why I decided to create a t-shirt. And I'm sure a different story or reason why you want to create one. So, and at the end of the day, there's markets for everything. There's someone that's going to resonate with my way of why, and there's people that's going to resonate with your reason why. So at the end of the day, it's really about that transformative quality, quality of the product or service, and also the way that you get to build your brand, the know, like, and trust, and lead with your values, your vision, and your mission, and your reason why. That's going to make you different. It's going to become your competitive advantage or your differentiator, in the market for that point in time. Now, I'm not saying that that's the only thing you need as you scale, but that's definitely what I would focus on, especially at the startup phase.
But and I totally agree 100%. Now, as you see, I'm writing stuff down because I love what you're talking about, and I'm gonna, of course, everything that I learn, I put it into use and I put it into my business. But something you talked about was building community. You talked about social proof, and like for me, something that Gary taught me was that if you promote your friends 10 times more than you promote yourself, you never have to promote yourself. Everybody's going to do the work for you. Like, if I could say I've got the greatest podcast in the world, but when Dean Graziosi said, you guys need to listen to Rich's podcast, I don't have to say a word. He said it all. Or like when I have somebody like Steve Sims says, you know what, this podcast is so good, I'm going to send my son on him next month to talk about his business. So I think a lot of people don't really think about social proof, and I think they really need to start thinking about social proof, especially when you're first starting out. Because like I said, back in the day, if Oprah Winfrey said you had a good book, it sold out the first day. You were automatic bestseller. So talk about building community, relationships, and social proof in business.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's really reminding me of the definition of branding, is that people mention your name when you're not even in the room. And that's intentional also, right? So it's being in service. To me, when I think of community, it's all about getting people or uniting people around a common set of values, vision, mission. That's what community is to me. And that's really what a company is. That is what a family is, right? When we come together as a family, there's certain things that we do as a family, routine, traditions, right? That's why we come together. So that to me is what community is. And if you're building a brand, those have to be very clear. And I understand at the beginning, you might not have that clarity. That's why, you want to get help with that and support with that, because I think that's where everything begins. So that would be the first one. And then the second one is always think of helping others, building reciprocity. Don't think of what can Rich do for me right now. Think of how can I add value to Rich's podcast right now, right? How can I support Rich? What can I do to be of a resource to you? Even when you meet people, I teach this in the way that I teach how to build know, like, and trust. You have not earned the right to ask unless you have been in service and you've built your trust at least 3, 4, 5 times, right? Because again, just like you said, that reciprocity, it's there. You don't need to, to claim it, or you don't need to be so, I don't know what's the right word that I'm looking for, but so like crazy about it. You just open up your heart and just be of service to people. Like right now I have, my own stuff that I have built. When I meet Rich and you have your podcast, I'm thinking, how can I help Rich? How can I maybe share this podcast with my audience, right? How can I be of a resource to somebody? And when you just have that mindset, you just naturally will make decisions like that, and you will start to build trust in the market or in your niche, just organically and naturally, and people will naturally perceive you as that person that is of high value, and the people gravitate towards you. And people talk about it as energy, as attraction, or whatever else. But again, you're seen as that resourceful person. And who doesn't want to have a resourceful person around? Someone that knows people. Another big one is connect people together, be a people connector, right? To me, it's like, let's put people together. If Rich, you can, benefit from meeting me or someone else, let's connect people together. So there's a few ways that we can be of a resource to one another, but just have that mindset when you build a community, and always think of service, and don't think of, yourself. I mean, at the end of the day, I think that, most of us are operating out of our ego. So kill the ego, be in service, have a clarity around your values, vision, mission when you're trying to build your communities, and then just, operate under the same thing, and your brand will be built by others around you. What a beautiful world, right? It's the best marketing that we can do. Word of mouth has been around traditionally for I don't know how many years that business has existed. We just get to do it in different with different channels today.
Well, something that I learned from, of course, I always go back to Gary, because Gary's a big influence. Ed Milet, another big influence. Steve Sims, another big influence. But when I first started the show, I had no social proof at all. I had no reason for them to want to come on the show at all. So I sat back and I'm like, how can I add value to Steve Sims? So what I did is, because I loved his books anyway, so I read his books, and then I did a blog post, and then I did Facebook posts, and I talked about the book, and then I put a buying link so people can actually go buy his book. And I didn't mention myself at all. And then eventually Steve started seeing my name pop up, but I'm promoting his stuff without asking for anything. And then he called me, he's like, I don't know you, but how can I support you? Because I always see you supporting me. And I think, like you said, if you lead with value first, you can't lose. There's no way to lose. Like we were talking about earlier, you being on my show, I want to provide 10 times more value than you when you come on my show. And I think, like you said, reciprocity. And that's something that Richard Cialdini talks about. And Robert Cialdini talks about. He talks about reciprocity. So I think I love what you're talking about, but I think it also becomes part of systems. And I love when you talk about systems. Like I said, I love your TEDx talk Guys, if you haven't checked out her TEDx talk, you need to check it out when you log off here. But in her book, well, talking about systems. Now, McDonald's doesn't make the best hamburgers, but they got the best system. I mean, they have the reason why they're the biggest landowners in the world is because they have great systems. So talk about building systems for success.
Yeah, I love this question because systems set you free. Systems are sexy. Systems is why we actually started in this journey as entrepreneurs. Most of us went in this thing for freedom. And then unless we figured out how to do all these things, then we just created jobs for most of ourselves, right? Because we're just in our business 24 hours, 7 hours a day. I mean, 7 days a week. And, we have what we call like jail because we just feel like everything is a priority and we need to be involved with everything. But no, the way I define a system is very simple. To me, even the way I look at it and how my brain works is like, okay, if there is repeatable processes in my business that I'm doing over and over and over and over, like posting on socials, starting conversations, sending out an email, what else do we do? Like over and like, serving, going on other people's podcasts, going and speaking somewhere. These are all repeatable, intentional systems that we need to repeat. We can't just like send one email in our entire life in the business and be like, okay, I'm done. That's a task that's only a one-time task. So take a look at your date, your calendar for the week, and look at all those repeatable things that you're doing, right? Because sometimes we're just doing a million things and we don't realize that a lot of those are repeatable. And then the other part is thinking, sitting back and thinking, the next question is, can I improve this process? Can I make this, how can I improve this process so that it's taking me less time? So do that for yourself first, because if you ask that question, then you have already streamlined that process so it's more productive and effective. The third question is, do I still need to keep continuing to do this on my own? Or can I delegate this out to buy a tool that can help me with this or to hire somebody? I usually go for the tool first and then the team, right? Because of course, with the online world, there's so many things that, there is a system out there or a tool that can do it for us. So that's really the three ways that I also make decisions around what is the next thing that I need to implement in my business that's going to make my job easier, that's going to free up my time, and it's going to improve the process of me getting from point A to point Z for a certain task. And it could be anything from posting, anything, from all the things that we got to do in our business to grow it, or we get to do. Because I don't think we got to do anything in life. It's we choose to intentionally to do it. And that's how we know whether it's a system I'm looking for or it's I need to hire someone that can help me with this. And then eventually, once you get big and you get scale, then you can start to create roles around these systems that you need or repeatable tasks. And then you start hiring for roles. Like I have a marketing role, right? And I need them to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because now you're very clear and you've already ahead of time decided that you need help and you want to delegate this out to someone because maybe that's just not something you want to do, and you might have the cash flow and the resources to be able to invest, right? You also have to look at your money. That's why at certain phases and stages, you might need to bootstrap, just like we all hear, right? You might need to do some of the things on your own because, you need to. But I think the beauty of you going through this process yourself is that you know exactly who to hire. Because we have heard of a lot of stories in business that we're hiring people just because we think we need something, but we don't even know exactly how they can be productive for us. And then we complain that we're just putting money into someone, but they're not really giving us a specific result because we don't even know how to coach or train them, on how to follow certain process to get us the result. And the only way to know is if we also understand or have some awareness. I'm not saying that you're going to be an expert at all of these things, but have some awareness of how the process works so that you know exactly who to hire and how they can actually be productive for you and add ROI back to you in time and money, of course. Those are always the two ways.
And I love what you talk about. And for me, our podcast didn't take off until this year. I think now we're in the top 0.5% of all podcasts because somebody challenged me on New Year's Eve. He challenged me to write 2 words for 2023 and follow those. And my 2 words were intention and attention. So everything that I do now is intentional. And everything I'm doing for intention is for attention. And I think a lot of people they're not intentional about what they do. Like they say, well, my company's not making money. Well, you're spending the first 4 hours going through Facebook instead of doing stuff that's going to bring in money, you know. And I think what the saying is the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. But I think you need to find out what's the most important thing and do that first so you can start generating income. What are your thoughts?
Oh, my thoughts are exactly that's right. So one of the main values of the work I do is I get to focus people because it is so easy to just be behind the scenes, like you said, and think you need to tweak your website. You need to, make a pretty, post, spend 10 hours on social media over something. Those are great, but again, focusing on the right intentional income producing or profit producing activities that you can do is the most important part of growing a business. Because again, once you build your brand, it's also important to understand which are the activities that you get to also intentionally generate income from, and what are those high priority, high impact activities that even if you spend half hour this day and I only have a half hour to spend, then that's going to be something that's going to move you further, faster towards your profit goals as well. Then you just putting 20 million things on your calendar and just randomly working on so many things. So yeah, the power of purposely focusing in your business in the most high impact activities is crucial. I mean, it's the only way to get ahead, and it's the only way to be in the business world, because there's always things that want your attention, or that, especially at the beginning when you're by yourself, you do have to wisely manage your time. And time management, unfortunately, is one of the biggest pain points that I see entrepreneurs struggle with. So yeah, I mean, having a word just like you did, or like a theme of the month or a theme of the year, it's amazing how you think it's just like, oh, it's just like a word. I don't know how am I going to get this done. We don't need to know the how. We just need to know the what is the thing I'm focusing on. So if you're trying to be more intentional this year and you're focusing more on your income producing activities, then that, if just you articulating that, is gonna help your brain see all those right things that are gonna get you to that focus that you clearly declared, or that you are so clear about. So it's amazing how everything works at the end of the day, and all the dots connect, is what I say, towards that, those important activities. But again, I think it's important that you also have the knowledge of what are those activities. Because you can just be there, sit there, and if you don't have the gaps filled and you don't know exactly what is going to be, what are those activities need to be, then you could just sit back and be intentional all you want, but you don't know exactly what is the right thing to do. So I think the two have to align. But the power of focus is absolutely, very important in being successful, and also being mindful and being fulfilled with all the rest of the areas. Because what's the point of you spending all your life building your business, and then now you have neglected your health, your relationships, all the other things that are important.
And I totally agree with you. I'm in total lockstep with you. And I just launched a course last week about the 3 P's of podcasting. And the 3 P's of podcasting for me are purpose, because you got to have a purpose, or else why get into it to begin with? Power. You want to have a powerful podcast or business. And second of all, is profitable. 80% of companies are not very profitable in this country or in this world. So you want to make sure that you have those 3 P's in any business that you do. So this is a teaching podcast. So if somebody, Private Joe Snuffy, came to you today, I think today is December 21st, wants to start a business, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice for them to start a business today?
Yeah, it's back to what I mentioned already. So have clarity on their business model, their market, and also how to reach the market and build on like and trust. Those three pieces. Those are the three steps.
I love it. So talk to us about your TEDx and talking about your books, and tell us what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I'm getting ready for my second TEDx on leadership, actually. The first one was aligning your purpose or building a purposeful company, a company that's purpose driven. The other one is going to be on purposeful leadership. And my latest book that's being launched is going to come out on January 4th, and it's with the same title, Purposeful, How to be a Purposeful Leader. And in there, people will find a lot of great nuggets around how to now scale and really build for legacy, because leadership is obviously the next skill that's needed when you move beyond the established phases of your company growth, and then you want to move at the next level and lead a company, or even be creative with other projects that you might be interested in. So that's coming out in January, and people can actually go to my website, Elonaloparicoaching.com, and I have a free masterclass where I have connected a lot of these different pieces that might just seem like random things that we talked about, or might just seem overwhelming to people. So they know exactly when they start up, what are the right steps that they need to take in order. And that's also going to be found in my on my website at Elonaloparicoaching.com.
And I love your website. I've been on it now. I've been watching everything you do. Like I said, I'm on my. I just watched your TEDx for the 5th time today, right before we got on, because I'm a big purpose-driven life kind of guy, and I feel if there's no reason to get up if you don't have a purpose, and that's why I love your TEDx talk. So I just want to say I'm so grateful that we finally got a chance to hang out and talk today.
Oh gosh, likewise. It's a great conversation. Thank you so much for holding it. And again, I really wish the audience walked away with some really great nuggets. And I'm looking forward to having you on my podcast. And I also have a very lively podcast. It's called the Life School Masterclass Show. And we get to have another great conversation around some of the knowledge and experience that you bring to the table with the work you do. So yeah, very, very excited. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm looking forward to having you on my show as well.
I can't wait. Guys, as you see, my t-shirt says, "Today I decide." Guys, you get to decide whether you're going to be victorious or whether you're going to be a victim. So that's why I wear this shirt every day, just to remind everybody, if you're watching this show, you are a victor and you are not a victim, and you guys will be successful because you guys have the vertical momentum. I love you guys. If you're interested in launching a top-rated podcast with over 1 million downloads, just write podcast down below, and I'll get that information to you. I just want to say once again, thank you so much for coming on and hanging out today. I truly appreciate you. And I got a whole bunch of notes that I'm actually going to take and incorporate into my business. So I just want to say thank you so much. Guys, I love you. Have an amazing week.